you think about this whole deal with the situation that happened up at Sunset with the leaders. Once the leaders cross the stripe, that's considered a lap by my interpretation of the sport rules that I grew up around. That became kind of a deal up there last weekend. And for those that kind of missed out with some dead air we had, let's just go ahead and recap it really quick, Josh.
Okay, so recap basically is this. Let us know what you think about the Colin Weinbarger, John Campos finish. Some people say that it wasn't a complete, it wasn't a completed race because they had to revert back to the last completed lap for that caution. When the caution came out after the leaders crossed the line and were over in turn 1 and 2.
Coming to the white flag.
Right. So it shows that John Campos was ahead by half a car length, but they reverted back to the last completed lap, then threw the checkered and gave the win to Superman Colin Weinbarger. Now, my understanding, your understanding, everything else where we came from, where we've been, was that once the leaders cross the line, that's considered a completed lap.
Correct.
Not when the last car crosses the line is not considered a completed lap. Because if you have a short track like what we do, what if those leaders are lapping people?
Right.
So we got to wait for that last person to cross the line before we consider that a completed lap. So let us know. You guys can, you definitely are on message board right now. Text away. We were just having our phones blow up and the message board blow up and stuff, talking about how we had dead air, and it shows we're live here. It's craziness. So we've had nothing but crazy weekends. So
we've got the question out there. What is the rule per lap? Leaders, the last car in line to cross the stripe to complete the lap. I'm going to say leaders. You say leaders. Sonny called in. He said leaders. We'll get the opinions of other people here on the message board. People are texting. We'll get some call-ins. The rest of the deal at Sunset sounded like, one heck of a show up there with, over 100 cars at Sunset with packed grandstands.
On Saturday, we would have had even more if Elma would have canceled before 1 o'clock. That was our biggest thing. I believe we started the night with 108, and I think we ended up with 120 on Saturday night. And then it was even that much more, the night before. We had some, of course, that left and had vacation, and they wanted to, do that. But I believe, Sunday was even 108 to 110 cars.
Incredible.
So it was huge turnout, great turnout. We had people. We have on the message board here, Maverick. He's one of our 4B drivers.
Right.
He says the leaders cross the line. It's considered a lap. Let's get into the Budweiser IMC modifieds. Basically, that's what we were just talking about and stuff. The next day, Spring Challenge weekend number 2. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, man, if you as a fan were not there. Lap is complete when the leaders cross the line. It is frozen, then results back to the last completed lap. So, and that came from Kenny leaders if they have crossed the line before the yellow. So the leaders did cross the line before the yellow flag. They were over there in between turn 1 and 2 when the yellow came out.
That lap is done. Now,
that lap is
how
considered
everybody
done.
Crosses the stripe behind them
should be
is
how
that lap completes.
Is how that lap should be reset.
I agree.
So, and that's what we're seeing here too. Lap is completed when leaders cross the line. Field is frozen, then revert back to the last completed lap. That is what that's what our message board is saying. People are saying. People are speaking out. They're stating as soon as the leaders cross the line, that's considered a lap. So let's go into day number 2.
Yeah, because day number 2 was. It sounded like there was some excitement on day number 2 as well.
So day number 2, the micro sprints would again see well over 50 cars. It was
one. You guys had a C main.
We had B mains, but we had 3 of them, 2 of them.
Okay,
2
B1, B2.
Yeah. So green white checkered again. Brock Lemley, Saturday night winner, would battle behind Jared Gunderson. Gunderson would at a green white checkered would hold off Lemley on the bottom side and would would pounce and stuff to the win. Was very, very, very excited in the 6 car. Couldn't have drove any better than what he did. Had that car on a rail, and it was awesome. The 600 Open main event, the young talent of Devin Borden ran the top side. This kid is, I mean, he's another young up and comer. Very, very smart. But, behind the wheel.
High side to get the win.
Absolutely.
In a restricted micro at Sunset.
Open.
Okay, that's where I was going because I'm thinking. Guys that are learning how to drive these cars, and you don't see a lot of the slide jobs and the power that you see with the open cars. There's quite a bit of difference between the two classes.
When
it's scary because you're waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, and to watch these kids and stuff be that close and have nothing happen. I mean, we had a driver, I can't even remember who it was, that spun out in literally at the front of the field, and the whole field missed him. I mean, and it was quick, and it was that quick. Devin would win that by over half a track. The 600 restricted A main, several cautions come out, gave it to Caden Holmes, just because of time restriction. They just could not. We were over 31 minutes to race an 8-minute A main realistically. I mean, that's what these guys were clicking off the times to race 8 to 9 minutes for our main event, for 20-25 laps. They finally had to call it, and Caden Holmes, who was winning, came up and no audio. This is we do apologize. See if that works a little bit better, guys. No clue why. I don't know if it's our internet tonight or what it is, but we do apologize for all of the broadcast cutting. If it's still out, please let us know.
Otherwise, you have to tune in and listen later.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, guys, but
hopefully it's not cutting out on our end too. Hopefully it's not. So Bridgeport Logistics Street Stocks. This was okay. You talked about a Cinderella story too. So Travis Cook and Roden. Roden would come through the field. Travis Cook would lead it, almost flag to flag. Roden would come up, and with 4 laps to go, 5 laps to go, they would realistically just be battling it out. 4 laps to go. Roden drives in a little too hard into turn 1 and 2, spins both him and Travis Cook out. The leaders 1 and 2 get spun. That, by said, then goes to the very excited, happy, I mean, just fiberglass to 71 of Benny Sauter. Okay, this guy tells me he's never won a race in his life. Never ever. He's always been, second or third or whatever the case is. He's never won a race. That night, he won that race on a green-white checkered. Held off Marty Holmanson for second and took the lead. And
Marty already has a win.
Marty already has a win. But I'll tell you what, on that restart though, Marty was not giving anything up in that 23 car not to get that lead.
Sure.
But the preferred line for those guys were down at the bottom, and he just found the grip with 3 laps to go, and Mr. Sauter, Benny Sauter, won that race.
See, just as surprising as Benny winning that race, and congrats to him, that is awesome, is to hear Cook and Roden getting together and spinning out in the late stages, because those are 2 quality race car drivers in those race cars. I mean, that class of cars, both those guys know what they're doing. That just goes to show you that they were charging hard and they were really racing there in the late stages, and it was a checkers or records type deal. It sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a very, very close race. I mean, all those guys, in that field of cars are very, very tight. I mean, and I keep on telling the race fans and stuff that literally with 4 laps to go, anything could still happen, and it does. I mean, the leaders with 4 laps to go take each other out. Mind you, it's not the way Roden wants to drive.
When you say
and Travis,
take each other out, it's not intentional.
It was not intentional, not even close, because
that class at Sunset, the street stocks. I don't care what anybody says. I'll say it. I'll say it for everybody to hear. You cannot watch better racing at that track, and you're going to be hard pressed to find better racing anywhere than what that class provides for those fans at that track.
Right.
That street stocks there, phenomenal.
Totally agree with you, 100%. And even Brian sat there and says, "Man, that's not the way that's not the way I race." Travis even sat there and said, "You know what, man, not a problem, not a problem. They race together so hard, door handle every single week. He knows that he didn't do it intentionally, but the track was very, very slick, and all it did is it took just a little bit of a nudge and spun them both."
Well, and you're talking about two drivers that will get 110% out of a race car that's going to give them 90.
Right.
I mean, those guys just have that ability to do it. I mean, Cook and Roden are two guys that I love watching them. I do. And they're fun to watch, and they're going to get every little bit out of that race car. And I mean, it's a shame that happened. It would have been fun to watch those guys race to the end to really see who got the better of who. But,
right.
Hey, Benny walked out with the hardware, and that's what matters here.
You know what? He can't listen to all the BS and stuff. That check's too loud. I actually heard that comment from I won't say who it was, but I don't know if they're listening. But I heard that comment and stuff today or the other day from a driver. He says, "I can't hear what you're saying, and my check's too loud in the car." I said, "All right, I gotcha." Northwest Extreme late models, super late models. This was another 35 lap main. Give it to Jason Johnson, man. This was the guy to beat. So it took 2 times to restart. Once it got restarted, we just talked to Mr. Sonny Modoff in the 8 car. He's quick.
That's a fast car.
Very, very quick.
And I think he probably got some advice from Steve Moore after Steve got some seat time in and said, "Hey, change this, change that," and it's a fast race car.
Definitely sure. He went out there, started second row, got up, right next to, right basically on the back bumper of Jason. Jason had a little bit more forward bite and stuff, but Sonny held his line. Sonny was very, very good. Coming up through the field was Colin Weinbarger. Colin was very, very fast in the late model.
No surprise.
Yeah. Literally, it was 14 laps or so in the 35 lap main before Colin could actually get around Sonny Modoff. It actually took lap traffic for him to get around him. Very, very impressed. I was very impressed with Modoff's, driving performance and everything else. I mean, he did very, very good. He actually slipped back to 6, at the end of the feature. But once it came down to it, came down back to lap traffic with Jason Johnson and Weinbarger, and lap traffic would be into a factor, and Colin would actually take that and take the win. Hard drive. And of Colin Weinbarger would finish second, but Colin is definitely a man of a lot of words when it comes to talking to him in victory lane.
Yeah,
he doesn't
you are
say
full of crap.
Nothing.
You get a word out of Kyle Yak in victory lane, you've accomplished something. To be a tough combination for the rest of these modifieds here in the Northwest. Kyle is very smooth. Kyle is one of the drivers, you get him on dry slick, and you're going to have your hands full. He loves this new car. I've taken a little time to talk with him at Willamette in the pit area. His whole crew is loving the way this car is doing underneath Kyle, and I'm not surprised that Kyle won that race, seeing what we saw last year when he won the modified race down there in the number 30 car. It's not a surprise to hear that Kyle Yak won that race, and I think that we're